Welcome back to Catfished by Populism. In this episode we would talk about women figures, or rather how female spokespersons are being represented. We would like to thank you for listening in advance. Let's get into it right away. Today's youth is gaining more confidence in speaking the truth. They are the ones who have the guts to address ongoing social issues as well as initiating discussions and debates. Although in our experience, for women it stays a hard world to be heard in. As they try to raise their voice, society will still find a way to undermine, silence, or even repress them. With the upcoming elections in mind, how are these women that have the ambition to become leaders gain an audience? And when we as a general society are not willing to hear them out. When women try to call out passionately and break through the barriers of being silenced, they are often seen as furious, dramatic, or simply annoying. How are they supposed to get their principles and points of view across when they are not given the opportunity for proper dialogue or gaining basic trust? Now, it is easy to point fingers and blame or accuse a certain entity. It is important to remember that women are not always trying to victimize themselves. If anything, it is rather that they use certain means or resources to grab attention in order to make sure that someone is hearing them out, whether they want to or not. When it comes to how these women represent themselves, the media are frequently the funnel through which society is spoken to. Let's take a look at how the media have an influence on the portrayal of female spokespersons. When they are giving the stage, the media have a tendency to lean towards stereotypes or plain simple just falsely portray these women, diminishing their strengths and perspectives.
There are some recurring themes within this media coverage. Although times are changing and women tend to speak up more than they used to in the past, underrepresentation might still be the biggest issue, as it has been for decades now. Social media being the most used and effective type of medium, it is becoming easier and more accessible for women to let their voice be heard. On social media platforms, they are a bit more in charge of what they represent and what messages they want to convey. Female spokespersons can use this as a tool to create a persona. It is to be understood this persona, it is not always positive, though. When it comes to the news media, on the other hand, they cannot fully practice this kind of control. This concept of a persona either works out successfully or it becomes an instrument for the news media to manipulate. Thus, they can counter or enhance this persona and consequently influence, alter and shape the public opinion since people form them according to what they can conclude from a certain person's media presence. Except for seeking sensation, the media employ quite subtle methods and tricks for exploiting this kind of capability. The general crowd might not realize their judgment and perception are being shaped by an external factor. Although Gen Z can manage to look through this, the media know young people are moldable and impressionable because they are still developing a clear outlook and perspective about societal matters.
Knowing all of this, many questions come to mind. Being young women ourselves, can we really trust that things will get better? Can we be comfortable taking our position in society, knowing that we are fighting an endless battle of which we may possibly never become the victor? And above all else, how can we be sure that the elections will lead to fair results and raise a system in which women are seen as proper equals and have the right to become part of leading our society? Let's just say there are a lot of things going on that we should give some thought.
So, for example, in Poland, we have this populist right-wing party, Confederation, which says a lot of negative things about women. Basically, they associate with people that say that women are not partners, only part of their property, part of men's property. And even though they didn't say that, a big part of them nodded their heads and did everything. And basically, they think that women's main interest and goal is to be a good wife in a heteronormative relationship, raise their men's child and deal with them while making dinner and being a housewife, or in more extreme cases, a trad wife. And even after all these things being said, in the European elections, they use their women politicians as some kind of bargaining card. It's like, oh look, she's on our list, we love women, we are just fighting for their rights and their right to choose. Yep, of course, but their right to choose is not really a right to choose. And that's why it's populistic. They don't really care about women, they still let them be the first on list, but they dehumanize them and bring everything to a pretty face and a dress. So basically, women can be competent and authentic at the same time. So, where's the logic?
In the European Parliament, you have multiple political groups. In the European Conservatives and Reformists group, there's only one Belgian female representative, Asita Kanko from N-VA, a right-wing party from Flanders. For the upcoming European elections, Vlaams Belang has put up a female populist on their European lists, Barbara Bonte, who is the second candidate on that list. Her political party, Vlaams Belang, says the Green Deal is considered a threat to our economy and welfare. They advocate for a withdrawal from the Green Deal and a comprehensive review of all resulting legislation. Barbara Bonte thinks we should review the nature restoration law. According to her, nature restoration can be perfectly executed at the Flemish level, without any different expensive European approach. She says the EU's climate approach threatens our agriculture, industry and welfare.
If we talk about female figures in the context of populism and elections to the European Parliament, Beata Szydło could not miss an example from Poland. During the first years of the Law and Justice government, she was the Prime Minister. During that time, PiS launched many social programs. That's why she is sometimes called the face of good change, especially by PiS voters. Now she's running for another term in the European Parliament. In her rhetoric, she often contrasts common people with elites. She openly criticized the current new government, accused the people in power of questionable morality. In her current campaign, she emphasized that she will fight with the Green Deal, so that the reform it introduced do not backfire on common people, especially from small villages. Perhaps her character no longer causes so many controversy as it did a few years ago, but she still used populistic slogans to gain voters' sympathy.
The thing with populism is that it might sound really appealing. It's like this one big, glittery present with an enormous bow tie under the Christmas tree. You are excited and decide to open it as soon as you can, but then, inside of it, it's just crumpled paper and basically nothing. It may be pretty outside, but it's nothing important on the inside. It is extremely important to be able to spot populism, because when you don't, you are just alone and misinformed in the whole big world of info inflation. But how we can spot something that is everywhere? The most important tool is fact-checking, and you can use it without any help. Just check more sources, look in different media, compare, and even though emotions are important, remember they might not be the best guide in the media world. When someone's rhetoric is based on dividing people into us, the good ones, people, versus them, the bad ones, the elites, then it's a red flag. And when someone is referring to some facts like dates, places, check it and trust it reliable sources. They are, for example, organizations that can help you with fact-checking, and if you have a problem with spotting populism, don't be scared to ask for help or consultations. You can ask your friends, professors, or anyone skilled in this particular thing.
That wraps up today's episode. Thank you for listening to Catfished by Populism. To stay informed, please check out our previous episodes, because education keeps the catfishing away. Until next time.